women locked up in convents, babies torn from their mothers and given up for forced adoption. Rent has become a luxury item. Evicted families, students with nowhere to sleep, immigrants treated with contempt, and one of Europe's most dangerous mafias operating behind the curtains. It sounds like a portrait of a country plunged into crisis in Latin America or Africa, doesn't it? But all this is happening in Ireland, the same Ireland that illustrates postcards with leprechauns, four-leaf clovers, and pubs full in the evening. The land of St. Patrick's Day, Irish friendliness, and the big tech boom in Dublin. But behind all this charming image, there is a reality that doesn't appear in the tourist windows. An Ireland marked by deep contrasts, which, despite its modern and welcoming look, still lives with scars from the past and very current problems. Today, here on Bello Mundo, you'll get to know this other side, the side that's off the beaten track, but is lived every day by those who really call this country home. Number 1. The Irish Dream. Some people call it the European dream. Others say it's an exchange student's paradise. But at the end of the day, everyone agrees on one thing. Ireland has become the destination of choice for those who dream of changing their lives. If you told someone in 1990 that Ireland, until then one of the poorest regions in Europe, would become one of the richest countries in the world in terms of GDP per person, many people would laugh. But that's exactly what happened. The country has become a global hub for technology and innovation. Today, Dublin, the capital, looks like a compact version of Silicon Valley. This is where the European headquarters of companies like Google, Meta, TikTok, and other giants of the digital world are located. And with it come high salaries, jobs in multinationals, and that international vibe that attracts people from all over. What's more, the government also gives a boost to those who want to become entrepreneurs, investing heavily in startups and innovation. The result is a lot of people flocking to the Emerald Isle to try their luck and seek a better quality of life. But like everything that rises too quickly, Ireland has also encountered its challenges. And behind that shiny facade of technological skyscrapers and streets crowded with people from different cultures, there is another side that is much less talked about and which surprises many people. A housing crisis that leaves families homeless, prejudice that makes life difficult for immigrants, infrastructure that can't keep up with the rapid pace of growth, and even a dangerous mafia that ranks among the most feared in the world. All this is also part of the Irish reality. It is exactly this other side, less known and not always shown, that you will discover now. Number 2. Cost of living. If there's one thing that gets to you when you arrive in Ireland, it's the cost of living. And look, it's not cheap. You know that image of the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow with a pot of gold? In real life, that pot quickly disappears with the cost of rent, bills, and basic expenses. Living in Ireland is expensive. Very expensive. Dublin, for example, is among the most expensive cities in Europe. In 2024, it came fourth in the ranking of the highest rents, behind London, Zurich, and Geneva. A simple apartment there costs more than €2,700 a month, just to have somewhere to live. And it's not all about luxury. These are small properties, often with queues of people vying for a place. Outside the capital, the situation is not very different. The national average rent is already close to €2,000, and when you add up basic bills such as electricity, gas, transportation, and food, the budget goes through the roof. According to Eurostat data, housing costs in Ireland are the highest in the entire European Union, double the average. Even so, many people believe that the high salary is worth it. But the reality is different. The Irish minimum wage is among the highest on the continent, but prices are rising even faster. A simple dinner can cost €20. A room in the center of Dublin is around 1,000, and in many cases shared with another person. Energy and transportation also weigh heavily. Those who work in multinationals can still maintain a comfortable life, but professionals in sectors such as commerce, cleaning, or restaurants face a constant squeeze, especially if they are still paying for English courses or trying to renew their visas. Even middle-class Irish families have reported difficulties keeping up with the bills. Living in Ireland requires financial juggling, and when the budget doesn't work out, the next step is often a painful one. Number 3. Homeless people. If the cost of living is high, imagine those who can't even pay their rent. Ireland is experiencing a housing crisis so severe that it is reversing its image as a welcoming country. Absurd rents and a lack of affordable housing have resulted in a sad scenario. Record numbers of homeless people. In November of 2024, the number of people in emergency shelters exceeded 15,000 for the first time in history, including almost 5,000 children without a home to call their own. And here's the thing, this official figure doesn't even include those who are actually sleeping out in the open. It only counts those who are in temporary shelters. Imagine if you counted those sleeping in tents or improvised shelters. And speaking of them, Dublin is home to most of this tragedy. In the capital alone, almost 11,000 people are now living in temporary accommodation, and anyone who walks around the streets will quickly notice. There are tents set up, people asking for help, families trying to make ends meet. The number of homeless people has risen by more than 12% in just 1 year. And there's an explanation for all this. There's a shortage of houses. Between 2015 and 2023, for every house built, almost 4 people entered the country. The account has never closed. The population has grown rapidly, but real estate hasn't kept up. And when rents skyrocket, those at the bottom of the pyramid are the first to fall. Today, there are families living in hotel rooms paid for by the government. There are workers who have been evicted because the rule that prevented this during the pandemic ended. And the queue to get an affordable home seems endless. That Ireland of green landscapes and movie villages is still there. But next to it is another, much harsher reality, which many people prefer not to see. But those who live on the streets can't hide it. Number 4. Prejudice against immigrants and black people. Ireland is known for its friendly people and warm welcome, but not everyone feels that welcome. For many immigrants and black people, the experience has been quite different. In recent years, the country has faced a worrying increase in cases of racism and xenophobia. In 2023, the Irish Network Against Racism, a member organization that campaigns against racism and other discrimination in Ireland, recorded 600 incidents, more than double the previous year. Of these, more than 200 were crimes, such as assaults and vandalism, and more than 100 involved hate speech. The organization's conclusion was straightforward. Racism has become a daily reality for anyone who is part of a minority in the country, and the situation has worsened. In 2024, far-right groups began to use the housing crisis as an excuse to spread hatred against immigrants. There were protests against refugee shelters in Dublin, and even attacks. One of the most shocking cases happened in May of that year, when anti-immigration activists set fire to a refugee camp in the center of the capital. The tents housed asylum seekers who had nowhere else to go. The group even bragged about it on social media. The scene was broadcast all over the country. The Prime Minister called the attack horrific, and it was. Black immigrants and people from outside Europe report suspicious looks, microaggressions, and much more serious episodes. Brazilians are also feeling it. In Limerick, a young man was beaten with a wooden bat just for saying he was from Brazil. In Dublin, app delivery drivers have been attacked. There has been a case of a motorcycle courier being run over on purpose and left with a broken leg. All this just because he was a foreigner. A survey carried out by the Brazilian embassy showed that almost half of Brazilians living in Ireland have experienced some kind of discrimination because they are immigrants, and more than half reported prejudice for not speaking perfect English. Although many people are still receptive, these episodes show that the stereotype of the always friendly Irishman doesn't apply to everyone. And the saddest thing is to see this kind of behavior in a country that knows well what it's like to be treated badly abroad. Ireland has been the target of a lot of prejudice in the past. Today, some of the pain is repeated, but at home. Number 5. Gender inequality. Today's Ireland is seen as modern, progressive, and full of progress. But behind this image lies a lot of heavy history, especially when it comes to the treatment of women. For decades, thousands of Irish women were practically enslaved in institutions known as Magdalene laundries. These were houses run by nuns, where women considered deviant were forcibly admitted to work in laundries, without pay, without freedom, without any rights. And what was considered deviant? Being a single mother, an orphan, poor, or even too pretty. Yes, there were families who put their daughter away just because they thought she might fall into temptation. Around 10,000 women and girls passed through these institutions during the 20th century. They lived locked up under physical and psychological abuse, as if they were criminals. And the most absurd thing, the last of these laundries was only closed in 1996. That's right. While the world already had Spice Girls and dial-up internet, this den of horror was still active in Dublin. It wasn't until 2013 that the government officially apologized. The Prime Minister at the time, Enda Kenny, acknowledged the state's responsibility and asked for forgiveness for the suffering caused. But for many survivors, this apology came late, after a lifetime marked by trauma. And if this is the past, the present is not without its problems either. Until recently, Ireland was one of the most restrictive countries in the world when it came to women's rights. Divorce was illegal until 1996. If you got married, it was to the death, and there was no talking, and many even died because of domestic violence. In other words, religious conservatism has profoundly shaped women's lives there. And even with progress, there is still a lot of inequality. Women earn less, hold fewer political positions, and face more obstacles in the job market. Only around 23% of seats in the Irish Parliament are held by women. In the corporate world, the pay gap is around 11%, and the echoes of that past are still there. In addition to the laundries, Ireland had the scandals of the mother and baby homes, institutions where single mothers were isolated, and many children were forcibly adopted or died in precarious conditions. Number 6. Organized crime. The Kinahan cartel and the Green Mafia. When it comes to the mafia, what usually comes to mind are the Italians from Sicily, the Mexican cartels, or the Japanese Yakuza. But what few people realize is that Ireland also has its own version, and it's a lot more dangerous than it sounds. Its name is the Kinahan cartel. It all started in the 90s, with street gangs linked to drug trafficking in Dublin. But the business grew. It grew so much that today the Irish cartel is considered by international authorities to be one of the largest criminal organizations in the world. Yes, the Kinahan are on a par with the Camorra, the Sinaloa cartel, and the Yakuza themselves. The comparison is no exaggeration. It came directly from the US government. The group deals in hard drugs such as cocaine and heroin, as well as being involved in money laundering and murder for hire. They have been linked to at least a dozen deaths in gang disputes. And according to estimates, the cartel has made more than €1 billion from illegal activities. The empire has grown so much that it has gone beyond the borders of Ireland. Today, the bosses are said to be hiding out in Dubai. And the most curious thing, one of the leaders, Daniel Kinahan, even acted as a boxing promoter, organizing high-profile international fights, including negotiations with boxing star Tyson Fury. Meanwhile, the police said he was running the drug trade from behind the scenes. The situation became so serious that, in 2022, the United States entered the game. They imposed sanctions against the cartel and even offered a reward of $5 million for information leading to the main leaders, a scene worthy of a movie. But this story didn't stop behind the scenes. In 2016, the war between the Kinahans and the rival Hutch gang exploded on the streets of Dublin. One of the most striking episodes took place during the weigh-in for a boxing match at a hotel in the city. Armed men burst into the venue dressed as policemen and machine-gunned the rivals in the middle of the event, all because of a dispute between the two groups. Since then, the Irish police have been trying to dismantle the cartel's operations. Some arrests have been made, but the bosses have managed to escape abroad, far from the reach of local justice. Number 7. Overburdened health system. The image of a developed country usually comes with that expectation. Efficient public health, fast care, first world structure. But the reality in Ireland is far from that. The health system there is stretched to the limit. Hospitals are full. There's a shortage of beds. Professionals are overworked. In 2023 alone, more than 121,000 hospitalized people were left without a bed, being treated on stretchers in the corridors. That's when they had a stretcher. There were even children in this situation. More than 3,000 were left waiting for a bed in overcrowded emergency rooms. And it's not just emergencies. If someone needs a specialist or elective surgery, they join a queue that seems to have no end. In 2024, almost 912,000 people were on the waiting list in a country with 5 million inhabitants. This means that 1 in 5 people were waiting for care. For the sake of comparison, proportionally, it would be as if a country like Brazil had 40 million people queuing at the public health system. That's a lot of people waiting. The explanation for this chaos is that Ireland has invested little in public health for a long time. Many hospitals are still run by religious institutions, and the structure has not grown at the same pace as demand. The government has tried to catch up, has launched plans, increased the budget, but the numbers only go up. Those who can afford it end up taking out private health insurance to escape the queues. But even the private system is saturated. There are people waiting for hours in ambulances because they can't even be transferred to hospital. There's no space or professional available. The situation has become routine, and the unions are already talking about collapse. Not for lack of warning, but for lack of a solution. And now you know that behind the breathtaking landscapes, vibrant culture, heart-stopping music, and real opportunities to study and work, there is a country with serious problems that go beyond the rainbow with the pot of gold. So, did you already know about this dark side of Ireland? Were you surprised by anything? Let us know what you thought or if you've had any experiences there. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any content and new adventures in our Bello Mundo. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. See you there.